Isn't it nice to just sit on your porch and watch the swarms? So relaxing.
Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo!
Hey, it's Centurion Day, where per your request, we're taking a look at the Romulan level 28 faction ship because you smacked that like button and said, make it a Centurion. That's exactly what we're going to do today. Taking a look at how to build it, how to crew it. We know how to build it. You hit the build button. Ding. How to crew it, and then even talking about a little bit of how to crew against it later on. Now, this seems to be the ship that kind of gets the least amount of love from the level 28 faction ships, with the Saladin being like worshipped as the biggest, best gun in the game, and then the board is just being seen as a great hostile grinder, which it is, and gets used a little bit more. Now, I'll admit that I kind of push that somewhat because I absolutely love my board. I just love all the Klingon ships, and sometimes that love becomes more about, the ship instead of the ship's abilities. But we're going to talk about the Centurion today, and just as a pre-warning, one issue with the Centurion is that it kind of needs higher level officers. You can still crew it out without that, but we're going to talk about some officers today, and I already feel the comment section is about to come. Well, I don't have that epic officer, or that epic officer, or that epic officer, or that epic officer. Well, that's the Centurion kind of needs it. However, there are still some crews that you can load it out with and have success, but we're going to talk about that. With the first point being, let's cover the firing pattern for those that don't remember it. And the firing pattern on the Centurion is actually really, really good. It's got 3 weapons, which if you remember, it's just 3 weapons, 3 energy weapons, but the firing pattern is 2 shots the first round, but then 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Many 4s. So you get lots of shots off, 3 weapons per round, with one of those being a double shot. And that is something that you can do a lot with. An example being, we talk about the anti-faction officers, like you're running Merrick or Krell versus Federation. So you can get those big bonuses across 3 different weapons firing many times. That's actually really nice. You see, I've got a tier 8 Centurion here, and most of you know that this with, Pike Moreau Chen or Picard Beverly Chen or Cadet Uhura, Cadet McCoy, this will cover all of your dailies throughout those levels pretty easily. So if that's a concern that you have, you shouldn't have it. But we're going to focus on the PvP aspect for territory captures and stuff like that. That way you can be prepared for when it comes around. Because I think the number one question I get asked from Centurion people is, how do I kill Saladins? It is possible, albeit sometimes little difficult, but it is very much doable. We're going to start with a basic setup here, and we're going to talk about several basic setups. And the TOS Kirk, TOS Uhura, and then Khan is your Enterprise crew. I would change this up just slightly, where I would put Spock right here. So TOS Kirk as captain, which is going to have the damage boost. Is not necessarily that significant, but it's going to give you a small damage boost, and then Spock to keep your shields up, and then you can, depending on what you have, Khan for the critical boost. Remember the video we did talking about how to calculate critical damage and why it's so important in the game. And then also you could use TOS Uhura if you wanted to on the side. So if we go back to sorting by group here, we could have TOS Uhura be on as a sidecar that we're getting the shield penetration, not mitigation. I hate to word it like that. So penetrating the shields more and then keeping your shields up while also having a small damage boost. But it does require you to have these 2 cards. One thing I want to do real quick is look at some cards based on likelihood of you getting them pretty early. So here is a setup that I've run before, and that is, we're going to highlight Yuki right here. She's currently on an away mission. But Yuki, Spock, and Kirk. Now, this Kirk would get replaced by this one. So we'd have the original Kirk that if you follow the plan that I kind of lay out, you should have this at least tier 2, tier 3 by the time you're getting level 28. And then have Spock, who you should have tier 3, tier 4 at minimum at level 28, following the upgrade path that we really talk about in many videos. Now, if Yuki is captain, and then you've got Kirk and Spock, you're keeping your shields up while also stripping an opponent's shields. Now, this is not necessarily the best loadout that you can run with, and that's not what I'm trying to put it off as, but it is very good based on the officers that are available to you at that level. You have to kind of look out for, general crew advice that can kind of be based on, well, if you got like a 4% Spock and a tier 5 TOS Uhura, you can only really build based on what you have. I mean, another example of a crew that I love is Myrick right here. Now, my Myrick is currently 175%, 175%, which is a tier 4 Myrick. When I'm running against a Saladin, this is actually really good. This is at level 28, a 175% Myrick is actually more powerful depending on your research than your critical bonus would be. Granted, your critical works on top, but you give you a rough idea. It's literally more than half of your officer bonus. It's a pretty nice jump, but you got to have a tier 4 Myrick. If you have a tier 2, tier 3, that Myrick's not really helping you that much against the Saladin, even though it is a good damage booster. So keep that in mind as we go over some of these crews. Now, another one would be the beautiful general, everybody uses it, Kirk Spock Khan. And this is one of the few times that I'm gonna be like, yeah, Kirk Spock Khan is good here, because at level 28, these are 3 officers that you can sit there and grind at. Your swarms every day will give you what you need to get Khan and unlock him and grow him. Kirk Spock you should be doing as well with Federation credits that you can either get from your Vidar grindings, your Borg refinery, or by actually just doing your Federation dailies if you're doing Federation Romulan dual grind. Up to you, but we're just simply talking about crews that will be available to you if you're going through the process. Now, these are some basic ones. Let's go into a little bit more of a not so basic run. And let's look at something, say, let's back out, discard, and hop back in. Just easier. 5 of 10. Now, I've got her on ship B, but we'll put her over here just for the time being. 5 of 10 is captain. Now, not everybody at level 28 has 5 of 10. It is something that you want to focus on, and I think that, officer sourcing for 5 of 10 needs to be opened up a little bit, and hopefully that will vary soon. But I think 5 of 10 as captain, and then 2 anti-faction officers, like Myrick and then Krell. And where is my Krell at? Is Krell? Yeah, Krell's over here. So having this type of loadout, so raising your mitigation, because here's one thing you got to remember about the Saladin, especially if you're taking on as a Centurion, you can't stop that first gun. It's going to blast you really hard. The only thing that you can really do to stop it is take your mitigation as high as possible. That's what 5 of 10 is going to help you do. Then you're going to use Myrick and Krell to smash back at it with 4 shots at round 2, round 3, etc. And then hopefully knock that Saladin down a couple pegs before it can get 3 shots off. My real goal fighting a Saladin is I want 6 rounds or less. If I can do that, I'm in a really good spot with how I'm loading out crew. Now, you can't necessarily predetermine those matches. It's going to depend on the size of the ships that you're fighting, but it is something that you can go after and really try to, key in on as a, I guess it would be, how would you word that? Kind of like a point that you want to focus on trying to get to. Using that is a common, I don't want to say common denominator, but a common loadout. Another one, which I think all these officers are gone except for Marcus, but we're going to have to put it on the screen. Remember Yuki and Marcus? Yuki, Marcus, and then an anti-faction officer if you've got them high enough, depending on several things. One, if this is a 175 or 500%, Yuki, Marcus, 15% shield strip plus the damage will be enough to take down the shields, but it'll be cutting it very close. Depends on the crew that you're running on that opposing Saladin. Like if they have a maxed morale crew, which is a 1000% shield regen, it might be tough to take the shield down. Once again, this becomes very difficult because as we were talking about, to take full advantage of your Centurion's firing pattern, which is its best trait, you really need higher level officers. So if you can't overcome that max morale, which if they're running max morale on the Saladin, that does mean they're not running any damage boosters. So that means that you can now do the stuff that we just looked at, which was 5 of 10, Myrick, and then Krell. So you have double anti-faction, and you're boosting. Now, another option, and this is going to be even tougher, and this was something that I think it was Ranclast recommended when we were talking, just because we were go over with some of these officers with a few people, and they ran having a Giorgio run with 5 of 10 as captain, and then Ash Tyler on the side. So that is giving you a damage booster as well as the background burning, which isn't too big of a deal. And then 5 of 10 as captain. I think that the final option for you is to fight fire with fire or fight shields with shields, and that is another good old-fashioned Kirk, Spock. Whoa, where'd my group go? Here we gotta sort it. And then Bones. Now, my Bones is currently repairing on a ship, but running the Kirk, Spock, Bones combination, the typical max morale, hopefully helps you stay alive through some of those big shots. I like the 5 Kirk Spock with that mitigation as well as the shield regen, but it's kind of up to you what you found to be most effective. I always like to affect phase 1 the most, and it depends on the incoming stats of that Saladin and how it's going to affect your mitigation. And then there's a couple more I want to mention that aren't necessarily top tier, but I will go through, and that is to remember your anti-faction officers. I preach on these a lot, and we saw Marcus before, but Kang against the Saladin can be very, very useful, once again requiring you to have a higher level Kang. I talk a lot about the Trinity officers in higher level videos, like when we talk about the D4, the Enterprise. It's much more realistic for people up there to have those. If you've got a high level Kang, I can't believe I'm just passing. There's Sharvin, Kang. Okay, here's Kang on an away mission. If you've got a high level Kang, then this can be very useful mixing with mitigation. So like 5 of 10 as captain, having Kang on the side and maybe another anti-faction officer can be something that's very good against Saladins. But it is going to definitely vary based on where your crews are at. Because if that Kang's at tier 1, tier 2, really not useful for you in what you're trying to do. It's just not. But running the Trinity officers based on what you're fighting is always a good idea. Kang for interceptors, Sharvin for battleships, and then of course Marcus for explorers. One final thing, if you want to take down this bad boy, it's really not that hard. If you want to Saladin, run max morale, or you can run a combination of Yuki, Marcus, and then a damage booster like Yuki, Marcus, Khan on a Saladin, max morale on a Saladin. These are all going to help destroy that poor little Centurion. Even though it is a great ship with a great firing pattern, just relying on those high officers. But there's a few crews, and if you want more, especially like lower level crews, we can talk about those in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, as always, smash the like button, and as this series will continue to drop your recommendations for the ship that you want to see done and crewed out next. All you gotta do is subscribe to the channel. We need more people to subscribe. Spread out the word. Let them know what you can do to help the channel grow. And growth means more content, and more content means awesome. Live long and prosper. Stay safe, other Space Cowboys. We'll catch you on the next one. Deuces. That's me. An even better outro than the intro. Yeah!